In a galaxy at war, the alien princess became the greatest threat. The warring factions, human colonies, alien empires, and rogue mercenary fleets fought endlessly over territory, resources, and ancient secrets buried on forgotten worlds. And in the midst of this chaos, one figure stood poised to change the course of history: Princess Liara of the Virelian Empire. Liara was unlike any ruler the galaxy had seen. Born into royalty, she was trained in the arts of diplomacy, leadership, and combat. Yet she was more than just a princess. She was a force of nature, brilliant and unpredictable. While her court and advisors whispered about treaties and alliances, Liara watched the galaxy with sharp eyes, her mind calculating, her patience infinite. She understood that power was not given, it was seized, often at a cost. The story of Liara's rise began on the planet Veridia, the jewel of the Virelian Empire. Veridia was a world of floating cities and crystal forests, its people proud and disciplined. Liara had spent her early years among scholars and warriors alike, mastering languages of countless alien civilizations and learning tactics that could outwit the most cunning generals. By her 20th cycle, she had already demonstrated her brilliance in matters of statecraft, yet she remained restrained, letting others underestimate her. The war, however, demanded action. The Virelian Empire was surrounded by hostile forces: the Zarkan Dominion to the west, infamous for their merciless raids; the Syndicate Coalition, rogue human factions that had carved out pockets of rebellion; and the Shard Collective, alien beings whose technology bent light itself. Each had reasons to conquer or destroy Veridia, yet Liara's people had stood resilient, guided by centuries of tradition and strategy. One fateful day, the Imperial Council received intelligence that a massive fleet of the Zarkan Dominion was approaching the outer rim of Veridia. Scouts reported thousands of starships, bristling with weapons, their purpose unmistakable: invasion. The council panicked, as they always did when faced with overwhelming odds. Advisors debated endlessly, some urging surrender, others calling for cautious diplomacy. Liara, however, remained silent until the council session ended. Then she stood, tall and unyielding, and addressed the room. Her voice was calm, yet carried the weight of authority. "We will not bow. We will not flee. We will meet them, not as victims but as the architects of their downfall." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some were awed, others skeptical, yet Liara's certainty was magnetic. She spent the following hours studying the enemy fleet's formation, analyzing their movements and predicting their strategy. Unlike the council, she did not see numbers as insurmountable; she saw opportunity. The night before the battle, Liara visited the command deck of Veridia's flagship, the Eclipse. Her advisors expected her to remain in her quarters, but she needed to see the fleet, to feel the pulse of her own people preparing for war. She walked among the soldiers, touching the shoulder of a nervous cadet and offering a reassuring smile. "Fear is not weakness," she said softly. "It is proof that we care. Channel it. Let it sharpen your mind, not cloud it." When the first light of the twin suns touched the horizon, the battle began. The Zarkan fleet descended in a spiral, their ships like predatory birds circling their prey. Veridia's defenses sprang to life. Turrets erupted with energy beams, shield generators flared, and starfighter squadrons leapt into the fray. Amid the chaos, Liara's strategy revealed itself. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, she had predicted their movements and created a trap. Using smaller decoy fleets, she lured the Zarkans into a narrow asteroid field, where their large warships struggled to maneuver. Then, in perfect timing, Veridia's hidden cruisers emerged from behind the asteroids, striking the invaders' flanks. The Zarkans were caught off guard. Their communication lines faltered, their formations broke, and panic spread through their ranks. Liara coordinated every move from the Eclipse, issuing orders with precision, her voice steady as chaos raged around her. Every decision was calculated, every risk measured, and every victory deliberate. By the end of the day, the Zarkan fleet was shattered. Few ships escaped the asteroid field, and the rest were either destroyed or surrendered. Liara walked among her victorious soldiers as the smoke cleared, not as a ruler celebrating conquest, but as a leader who had understood the value of every life under her command. She knew that victory was not measured in destruction, but in the survival and unity of her people. Yet, this battle was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, rumors of Liara's tactics and brilliance spread like wildfire. To the Virelians, she was a savior. To their enemies, she became a figure of fear. Intelligence reports from distant systems carried a single refrain: "The princess has become the greatest threat we have ever faced." As Liara returned to her chambers that night, the weight of responsibility pressed upon her. She understood the cost of power, the sacrifices required, and the enemies that would not rest. But she also knew that a galaxy at war demanded not only rulers but visionaries. She was prepared to become more than a princess. She would become a force that even the most cunning adversaries could not ignore. In the quiet hours, Liara gazed at the stars through the crystal window of her quarters. She did not see the conflict, the fleets, or the warlords vying for power. She saw possibilities. Every star was a potential ally, every planet a chance to change the balance, and every choice a step toward shaping the destiny of her empire, and perhaps the entire galaxy. And somewhere, far beyond the reaches of Veridia, her enemies plotted. They whispered about the princess, their words carrying fear and determination in equal measure. They did not yet know that she welcomed the challenge. That in a galaxy at war, she would not merely survive, she would become the greatest threat of all. The next morning, Veridia's skies were calm, but the sense of anticipation remained. Liara convened her council once more, not to debate or argue, but to instruct and prepare. She had plans, long-term strategies that went beyond mere survival. She spoke of alliances, of exploration, and of a vision where the Virelian Empire would not just exist, but lead. The galaxy was vast, and the battles ahead would test her resolve, intelligence, and courage. But Liara was ready. Every decision she had made, every lesson she had learned had led her to this moment. She would no longer be just a princess in a palace. She would be a leader on the front lines, a strategist in the shadows, and, if necessary, a storm that her enemies could not withstand. The war had found her, and she had answered. The victory at Veridia's outer rim had sent ripples through the galaxy, though Liara did not celebrate. She understood that defeating the Zarkan fleet was only a single battle in a war that stretched across countless star systems. The real challenge lay in anticipation, strategy, and the delicate art of politics that now threatened to engulf her empire. Within days of the battle, Veridia received envoys from distant human colonies, bearing offers of alliance. Some sought protection under the banner of the Virelian Empire, while others hoped to learn from the tactical brilliance that had decimated the Zarkan fleet. Liara received them personally, seated in the grand council chamber of the Veridian Palace, a room that glittered with crystal panels reflecting the light of 3 suns. She listened, nodding politely, weighing each proposal with care. The human emissaries, tall and cautious, bowed before her, their expressions a mixture of awe and skepticism. "Princess Liara," one began, "your reputation precedes you. We have watched the battle reports from the Zarkan engagement. Your strategy was unlike anything we have seen. We seek your counsel and your protection." Liara's eyes swept across the gathered assembly. She saw opportunity, yes, but she also saw the dangers of overextending her influence. "I appreciate your confidence," she said, her tone calm and deliberate. "But alliances are not made lightly. Trust is earned, not given freely. I will consider your proposals, and in time, we may find a path that benefits both our peoples." Once the envoys left, Liara convened her inner circle of advisors and commanders. "We are gaining attention," she said. "Not all of it friendly. The Zarkans will recover, and the Shard Collective watches our movements with interest. We must be prepared for the next wave." Her chief military strategist, General Torvin, a towering figure of discipline and experience, leaned forward. "Princess, our fleets are strong, but the galaxy is vast. We cannot defend every system simultaneously. Our next moves must be precise, targeted." Liara nodded. "Exactly. We will use intelligence, deception, and diplomacy as weapons alongside our fleets. The galaxy underestimates us, and that is a mistake we will exploit." The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Scouts traveled to distant star systems, mapping routes and noting the locations of rival fleets. Scientists and engineers enhanced Veridia's ships with new shielding technology and faster propulsion systems, all under Liara's careful supervision. Every decision was calculated, every innovation carefully tested. Her people admired her not only for her strategic brilliance, but for her unyielding focus on the preservation of life. Unlike many rulers who sent soldiers into battle without thought, Liara ensured her plans minimized unnecessary loss. Meanwhile, the enemies of Veridia were not idle. Rumors of Liara's methods reached the Shard Collective, who viewed her as a potential threat to their expansionist ambitions. The Zarkans, humiliated by their defeat, sent covert agents to spy on Veridia, hoping to uncover weaknesses. Even the Syndicate Coalition, rogue human factions long known for their cunning, began to circulate propaganda painting Liara as a dangerous figure, a tyrant in waiting. But Liara anticipated these moves, responding with subtlety and precision that left her adversaries frustrated. It was during this period of cautious preparation that the first signs of an unusual threat appeared. Scouts reported a fleet of unknown origin, moving rapidly through the outer systems. These ships bore markings unfamiliar to any registry. Their energy signatures were inconsistent with known technology, and their tactics suggested intelligence far beyond ordinary combat protocols. Liara studied the reports herself, her sharp mind piecing together fragments of information. "This fleet is not here to negotiate," she said to General Torvin and her intelligence chief, Lysara. "It moves with intent, purpose, and confidence. We must understand its origin before it reaches our borders." Lysara, whose analytical skills had saved Veridia on multiple occasions, frowned. "We have intercepted encrypted transmissions, but the language is unlike anything in our databases. It is sophisticated, layered. Whoever commands this fleet is not only skilled but intelligent. We may be dealing with a civilization that has remained hidden until now." Liara's eyes narrowed. She felt the familiar thrill of challenge. The galaxy had grown predictable, wars fought by familiar factions, strategies repeated across decades. But this was new. This fleet was a puzzle, and puzzles were her specialty. The first engagement with the mysterious fleet occurred at the perimeter of Veridia's outer defense ring. The fleet appeared suddenly, emerging from a dark nebula with precision and coordination that stunned Veridian pilots. Their ships were sleek, almost organic in appearance, shifting their formations like living creatures. The Veridian fleet braced for combat, and Liara took command from the eclipse, issuing orders with the clarity of a seasoned leader. Unlike the predictable Zarkans, these new adversaries did not attack directly. They moved in patterns that forced Veridian squadrons to chase them, luring ships into traps that were both technological and psychological. Liara quickly realized that brute force would not win this battle. Instead, she devised a maneuver that relied on misdirection and anticipation. She deployed decoy drones that mimicked fleet formations, drawing the enemy into a channel between two asteroid fields. From there, hidden cruisers struck at the flanks while the main fleet provided support from a distance. The engagement was intense. Pilots reported maneuvers that seemed impossible, yet under Liara's guidance, Veridian forces adapted quickly. They learned to anticipate shifts in enemy movement, responding with agility and precision. The battle lasted for hours, ending not with annihilation, but with a strategic withdrawal of the unknown fleet. Their motives remained unclear, but their intelligence was undeniable. After the encounter, Liara convened her council once more. "They are unlike any force we have faced," she said. "Their technology and tactics are advanced, but they are not invincible. We must study them, understand them, and be ready for the inevitable return." While the council debated whether to pursue the fleet, Liara took a more proactive approach. She authorized covert reconnaissance missions, sending small, fast ships to gather information about the origin of the mysterious force. Each mission returned with fragments of knowledge, unusual energy readings, strange symbols on planets, and evidence of a civilization that had hidden in the shadows for centuries. Through it all, Liara's presence inspired confidence. Soldiers, engineers, diplomats, and scientists alike felt her determination and clarity. Her approach was not merely to fight but to anticipate, to outthink, and to protect her people. Even the human colonies under consideration for alliance began to see her not just as a leader, but as a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had known little peace. Yet not all was secure. Within the Virelian Empire, there were whispers of discontent. Some nobles feared Liara's growing influence, questioning her decisions and the risks she took. "She seeks too much," one whispered in a dim corridor of the palace. "She aims to control more than our empire, more than the galaxy itself. Power such as hers is dangerous." Liara, however, remained undeterred. She knew that leadership required courage, not only on the battlefield but within the halls of power. She worked to build trust, listening to concerns, acknowledging fears, and ensuring that her vision was understood. Her strength lay not in domination but in unity. She believed that a ruler could guide with wisdom, not fear, and she embodied that belief in every decision she made. The galaxy, meanwhile, continued its relentless pace. News of her successes traveled quickly, spreading hope and fear alike. To allies, she was a symbol of protection and strategic brilliance. To enemies, she became the greatest threat they had ever faced, a figure whose intellect and resolve could dismantle even the most formidable fleets. One evening, as twin moons rose over the capital of Veridia, Liara stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of floating districts shimmered in the night, reflecting in her eyes. She felt the weight of the galaxy upon her shoulders, but also the exhilaration of purpose. Every challenge, every enemy, every choice was an opportunity. And she would face them all, not merely as a princess, but as a force that could reshape the course of war itself. In the shadowed corridors of distant empires, her adversaries whispered her name, their voices tinged with fear and respect. They spoke of the princess who had defeated fleets, outsmarted enemies, and inspired loyalty beyond borders. They did not yet understand her motives, but they recognized the truth. Liara was not merely a ruler. She was a threat, a storm, a calculated force of nature that the galaxy would have to reckon with. As the stars wheeled overhead, Liara returned to her chambers. She did not sleep immediately. Instead, she studied reports, analyzed data, and prepared for the days ahead. The war was far from over, and the challenges had only begun. But she felt a quiet confidence. In a galaxy at war, she had become something extraordinary, a leader who could not be underestimated, a mind that anticipated moves before they were made, and a presence that would change the fate of countless worlds. The galaxy had seen many leaders rise and fall. Some were remembered for their victories, others for their failures. Liara, however, was on a different path. She would not simply react to events. She would shape them, guide them, and, if necessary, dominate them. And in doing so, she would prove that in a galaxy at war, The alien princess was not only a survivor, but the greatest threat anyone had ever faced. The galaxy had grown tense. Word of Princess Liara's victories and strategic brilliance had spread to the furthest systems. Even those who had not directly faced her knew her reputation, a leader who did not just react but shaped the outcomes of battles before they began. But the greater her renown, the more dangerous her enemies became. Liara understood this. She had seen hints of a shadow forming across the galaxy, fleets amassing in hidden systems, spies infiltrating neutral colonies, and communications disrupted by unknown forces. It was clear. The mysterious fleet that had tested Veridia was not an isolated threat. Someone or something was coordinating a broader plan, and it aimed to challenge the Virelian Empire directly. In the command room of the Eclipse, Liara studied the reports with intense focus. General Torvin and Chief Intelligence Officer Lysara stood beside her, offering updates and counsel. "They have begun recruiting systems on the Outer Rim," Lysara said. "Several have pledged support after intercepted negotiations. Their influence grows quickly." Liara's eyes narrowed. "They believe their numbers will overwhelm us. They mistake fear for strength, deception for loyalty. But we will show them the truth. No fleet can outthink the Virelian Empire." Her mind raced through possibilities. She understood that brute force alone would not be enough. The key was anticipation and leverage. Liara devised a plan to draw the enemy into a trap that relied not only on the strength of her ships, but also on diplomacy, espionage, and psychological strategy. She intended to turn fear and uncertainty against them. The first step was the creation of a network of informants and agents embedded across multiple systems. Lysara coordinated the operation, recruiting diplomats, engineers, and even former mercenaries who were willing to serve under Liara's banner. They would feed information about the mysterious fleet's movements, planting subtle misinformation while gathering intelligence. At the same time, Liara reached out to potential allies, human colonies and alien factions alike, emphasizing mutual protection and shared interests. While some were skeptical, many were persuaded by her vision, a galaxy where knowledge, strategy, and unity mattered more than raw aggression. By the time the enemy fleet made its next move, Liara had already prepared the battlefield. The attack came without warning. Reports indicated that multiple star systems had been seized by the unknown force, their defenses dismantled with precision. The enemy did not aim for complete destruction. Instead, they sought control, communication, and influence. Liara saw the subtlety in their approach. This was not mere conquest. It was a test, an attempt to gauge the Virelian Empire's reactions and capabilities. Liara deployed the fleet strategically. The largest ships formed a defensive line around Veridia's core systems, while smaller squadrons moved to intercept enemy forces along predicted routes. Decoy convoys were sent into sectors where the enemy had previously shown interest, their purpose not to fight but to lure. The Eclipse acted as the central hub, coordinating movements with flawless timing. The first major engagement occurred in a neutral sector rich with energy resources. The enemy fleet appeared from behind a dense asteroid belt, their ships shifting formations in ways that defied conventional tactics. Liara observed through the viewport, calculating probabilities and issuing commands with calm authority. "Divide your attention," she said. "They will try to confuse us. Focus on patterns, not numbers. Anticipate their next step." Her strategy worked. As the enemy pursued the decoy convoys, Veridia's hidden squadrons emerged from hyperspace, striking at critical nodes in the formation. Chaos spread through the opposing fleet. Their precision faltered under the unexpected attacks. Liara had predicted this. She capitalized on their disarray, coordinating multiple strikes that cut off retreat and forced the enemy to disperse. Even in victory, Liara did not underestimate the enemy. She knew that survival depended on understanding, not just defeating. Following the battle, she ordered reconnaissance missions to gather debris, communications, and technology left behind. Every detail mattered. She studied their ships, energy systems, and tactics, slowly piecing together the identity of the force that dared challenge her empire. It was during one of these missions that a startling revelation came. A recovered data module revealed encrypted messages, communications between the mysterious fleet and a shadowed council of rulers. They called themselves the Ecliptic Conclave, an assembly of civilizations hidden from the rest of the galaxy for centuries. Their goal was not simple conquest, it was dominance over knowledge, technology, and influence. Liara read the messages herself, her mind absorbing every nuance. The Ecliptic Conclave was formidable, not just in power but in intellect. They had studied the known empires, analyzing strengths and weaknesses, predicting reactions. This was not a force to be underestimated, but Liara's reaction was not fear, it was determination. "We are not their prey," she said to her council. "They believe they understand the galaxy. They believe they can control it from the shadows. They have not met me." Liara's next step was bold. She decided to strike at the heart of the Conclave's influence. Using the intelligence gathered from spies and captured modules, she identified a hidden system that served as a hub for their fleet coordination. It was heavily guarded, with defenses designed to repel even the most advanced forces. Yet Liara saw opportunity where others would see danger. She devised a multi-layered approach. While the main fleet created a diversion in the outer rim, a specialized strike force, composed of elite pilots and engineers trained for precision operations, would infiltrate the hub. Their mission: to disable the fleet's control systems and send a message that the Virelian Empire could not be intimidated. The operation was tense and complex. Every step required perfect timing. Liara oversaw the coordination personally, her mind tracking dozens of variables simultaneously. "We move as one," she told the strike force. "No hesitation, no doubt. Success depends on unity and clarity. Trust in your training and trust in each other." The infiltration began under the cover of a nebula, the strike force slipping past patrols and defenses with skill and precision. Liara monitored their progress from the eclipse, issuing adjustments as unexpected obstacles arose. The Conclave's systems were formidable, but the Virelians were patient and calculated. Every obstacle was anticipated, every contingency addressed. By the time the strike force reached the hub's core, they had already disabled external defenses and created controlled disruptions within the enemy network. Engineers worked quickly to sever communication channels, reroute energy flows, and send false data to confuse any remaining forces. Liara's plan was unfolding perfectly. The final stage was delicate. A single misstep could alert the Conclave, causing them to retreat and regroup. Yet under Liara's guidance, the strike force executed flawlessly. Systems that had coordinated enemy fleets for centuries were disrupted, sending messages of disarray through the Conclave. Enemy ships, deprived of their command signals, struggled to maintain formation, making them vulnerable to counterattacks from the Viridian fleet. When the operation concluded, Liara allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. The Conclave had been challenged directly, and Viridia had proven it could strike at the heart of an enemy without being drawn into chaos. Across the galaxy, news spread that the Virelian Empire had not only defended itself but had taken the fight to a hidden and powerful adversary. But Liara knew this was only the beginning. The Conclave would not forget this affront. They would regroup, analyze, and plan their next move, and when they did, she would be ready. She had seen the patterns, understood the strategies, and learned the weaknesses. She was not just defending her people. She was shaping the future of the galaxy, asserting her influence in ways her enemies could not anticipate. Within the palace, Liara walked among her people, visiting engineers, pilots, and soldiers. She spoke with each personally, offering encouragement and guidance. Her presence inspired confidence. Her calm, deliberate words instilled determination. She was not a distant ruler issuing commands. She was a leader present in every moment, aware of the stakes, and committed to the success of every individual under her command. Even as she worked tirelessly, whispers of her growing power reached the ears of distant rulers. Some feared her intellect, her foresight, and the loyalty she inspired. Others saw opportunity in aligning with her, hoping to share in the stability and strength she offered. Liara navigated this web of politics with the same precision she applied to the battlefield, ensuring that the Virelian Empire would grow in influence while remaining vigilant against hidden threats. In the quiet hours, as twin moons reflected light across the palace, Liara stood once again at her balcony. She gazed at the stars, contemplating the challenges that lay ahead. The conclave had been warned, and the galaxy had witnessed her power. But she did not seek fear for its own sake. She sought order, protection, and a future shaped by intelligence and courage rather than chaos and destruction. The galaxy had changed, and so had Liara. From a princess in a palace to a strategist commanding fleets, influencing alliances and challenging hidden powers, she had become more than a leader, she had become a symbol. To some, she was hope. To others, a threat that could not be ignored. And in a galaxy at war, symbols were often the most powerful weapon of all. The battles ahead would test her resolve, her intellect, and the loyalty of those around her. But Liara was prepared. She had learned that true power lay not in the destruction of enemies, but in the orchestration of outcomes, the shaping of events, and the cultivation of influence. In the days to come, the ecliptic conclave would discover that the alien princess was more than a ruler. She was the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. The galaxy had shifted. Systems that had once been neutral now watched the Virelian Empire with cautious attention. News of Princess Liara's victories against the Zarkans, the mysterious fleet, and the daring strike at the conclave's hub spread like wildfire. Allies admired her strategy and foresight, while enemies whispered her name in fear. The once hidden ecliptic conclave, who had believed themselves untouchable, now faced a princess who could challenge their power directly. Liara stood on the command deck of the Eclipse, observing the stars and the distant glimmer of fleets moving in formation. General Torvin and Chief Intelligence Officer Lysara reported the latest updates from multiple fronts. Princess, the Conclave has consolidated forces near the Urindor sector, Lysara said. Their numbers are larger than we anticipated. They appear to be preparing for a coordinated strike against multiple key systems simultaneously. Liara's eyes were steady. Then we must be ready to meet them not with reaction, but with initiative. Gather our allied fleets and prepare the sectors for strategic defense. We will not only protect our territories, but we will dictate the terms of this war. She had spent countless cycles studying the Conclave's strategies, predicting patterns and identifying weaknesses. The previous strikes had demonstrated the Virelian Empire's ability to adapt and anticipate. Now, Liara intended to push further, a campaign that would disrupt the Conclave's networks, fracture their alliances, and prove that no force in the galaxy could outmaneuver her. The operation began with a series of coordinated maneuvers. Allied fleets moved into defensive positions along key hyperspace routes. At the same time, small strike teams deployed to infiltrate critical conclave supply hubs. Liara's strategy was multi-layered. The enemy would find themselves simultaneously attacked, disrupted, and deceived. Every move was calculated to sow confusion and force them into positions that favored the Virelian Empire. The first engagement occurred near the Urindor sector, a cluster of systems rich in resources and strategic value. The Conclave's fleet arrived with overwhelming numbers, their ships forming complex formations that challenged even the most experienced commanders. Liara watched from the eclipse, analyzing their approach. "They rely on patterns," she observed to Torvin. "They anticipate reaction, not initiative. We will break that expectation." Liara ordered the deployment of decoy convoys, their purpose to lure the Conclave's fleet into an ambush. As expected, the enemy pursued, drawn by the apparent weakness of the convoys. Hidden Violian cruisers emerged from behind asteroid fields, striking the flanks with precision. Liara's fleet moved with coordinated efficiency, cutting off escape routes and forcing the Conclave's ships into disadvantageous positions. The battle was intense. Ships collided with bursts of energy, laser fire streaking across the void. Yet under Liara's guidance, the Violian forces remained composed. Her voice over the communications network was calm and deliberate, issuing orders with clarity that inspired confidence. "Hold formation, anticipate their moves, strike where they are weakest." Amid the chaos, Liara deployed her most daring plan, a specialized strike force designed to infiltrate the Conclave's flagship. This ship served as the command hub for the enemy fleet, coordinating movements and issuing commands. Capturing or disabling it would disrupt the entire operation. Liara monitored every step, her mind calculating contingencies and adjustments. The strike force maneuvered through dense asteroid belts, avoiding detection, and breached the flagship's defenses with skill and precision. Inside the enemy vessel, Violian engineers and pilots worked tirelessly, rerouting energy systems, disabling communications, and creating controlled confusion. By the time the Conclave realized the breach, the damage had been done. Ships in their fleet were cut off from coordination, formations broke, and panic rippled through their forces. Liara had anticipated this, positioning her fleets to exploit the chaos and strike with maximum efficiency. As the battle progressed, Liara received reports from multiple sectors. Allied systems, previously neutral, had begun mobilizing against the Conclave, inspired by the Violian Empire's decisive actions. This unexpected support amplified the effectiveness of her strategy, forcing the Conclave to divide their attention and resources. Liara smiled faintly. Her influence extended beyond fleets and weapons. She had become a symbol of unity and resilience, capable of inspiring even those who had never met her. Despite the victories, Liara remained cautious. She understood that the Conclave was intelligent, adaptive, and relentless. They would not accept defeat lightly. Her attention shifted to the broader strategy, weakening their infrastructure, isolating their leaders, and establishing communication channels that allowed her to anticipate future moves. Every captured system, every disrupted supply line, every intercepted communication brought her closer to controlling the narrative of the war. In the aftermath of the engagement, Liara convened her council. "We have demonstrated our capability," she said. "But the war is far from over. The Conclave will regroup. We must remain vigilant, adaptive, and proactive. Our goal is not merely survival. It is to ensure that our influence shapes the galaxy, that no threat can operate in shadows unchecked." Torvin nodded. "Your strategy has changed the tide, Princess. Our enemies now know that they cannot underestimate Viridia or the Violian Empire." Liara's gaze was steady. "Good, let them fear. Not for the sake of fear itself, but so they understand the consequences of underestimating strategy, intelligence, and unity." Over the following cycles, Liara extended her influence through diplomacy, intelligence, and selective displays of power. She forged alliances with previously neutral factions, offered protection to systems threatened by the Conclave, and demonstrated the Violian Empire's ability to act decisively. Across the galaxy, the narrative shifted. The alien princess was no longer a distant ruler. She was a force that shaped events, a presence that commanded respect, and for her enemies, the greatest threat imaginable. The Conclave, frustrated and challenged, attempted to strike back with surprise attacks and covert operations. Yet Liara anticipated each move, countering with precision and foresight. Her reputation as a strategist and leader grew, not only through victories but through the perception of inevitability. Where Liara acted, outcomes bent in her favor. Finally, Liara initiated the decisive phase of her campaign. Drawing on intelligence, alliances, and technological advantage, she orchestrated a coordinated strike against the Conclave's primary bases of operation. The goal was to dismantle their network, neutralize their fleet capabilities, and assert control over systems vital to maintaining influence across the galaxy. Liara's plan was audacious, requiring flawless coordination across multiple sectors, but she was confident. Every move, every contingency had been calculated. The campaign unfolded with precision. Fleets engaged in coordinated attacks, strike teams disabled critical infrastructure, and allied forces advanced to secure key systems. The Conclave, though resilient, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Their attempts to regroup were thwarted by Liara's foresight and the loyalty of those she had inspired. When the final engagement occurred, it was clear that Liara had won not just by firepower but by intellect. The Conclave's fleet was scattered, their bases compromised, and their influence diminished. Across the galaxy, leaders who had once doubted the Virelian Empire acknowledged Liara's brilliance. She had not only defended her people but reshaped the balance of power, proving that strategy, foresight, and unity could triumph over raw force and hidden agendas. In the aftermath, Liara addressed her people and allies. Her words were calm yet commanding, instilling confidence and a sense of shared achievement. "We have faced challenges that many believed insurmountable," she said. "We have protected our homes, defended our values, and demonstrated that intelligence, courage, and unity can shape the fate of the galaxy. Let this be a reminder. Threats may rise, but together, we are capable of overcoming any challenge." Her message resonated. Across the galaxy, systems previously hesitant to act now rallied under the vision she had presented. Alliances strengthened, communication networks flourished, and stability returned to sectors once threatened by chaos. Liara had not only defeated enemies but had established a lasting legacy of leadership, strategy, and foresight. Yet, even as peace returned to many systems, Liara remained vigilant. She knew the galaxy was vast and new challenges would emerge. But she had proven that she was not merely a princess. She was a leader capable of shaping the course of history, a strategist whose intellect could outmaneuver even the most formidable adversaries, and a presence that inspired loyalty, unity, and resilience. Looking out at the stars from the eclipse, Liara reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. Battles had been fought, fleets defeated, and enemies humbled. But more importantly, she had demonstrated that true power lay not in dominance or fear, but in intelligence, foresight, and the ability to inspire others. In a galaxy at war, she had become the greatest threat, not to conquer but to lead, protect, and shape the future. The alien princess had risen. The galaxy would never be the same. In a galaxy at war, the alien princess became the greatest threat.